everyone. This is Faith and Books. I should introduce myself. It's kind of dark in here. I'm not sure how this will turn out. I'm just trying to make a very quick video. As you can tell, I did not get my hair cut. I had an appointment for Tuesday morning at 9, but I woke up with a migraine. Tuesday was not a good day, and so I didn't do it. I was going to try again for this morning because I have a couple of hours free, but we're going away tomorrow. And I want to clean out the fridge and get laundry going and just all that kind of stuff you do before you go away. We're going to go visit my youngest daughter who just celebrated her first wedding anniversary. And we have not seen their new house. So they're renting it, a townhouse. So we're going to go up and visit this weekend. So we're leaving tomorrow. And so I thought I'd get this video done real quickly. So I'm going to finish up the list by Peter Kreeft that I was doing. I'm going to do the bonus books that he listed after he listed his 26 books that you should read before dying. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about June because I don't have very much planned or I have ongoing things. A little bit about current reads, and that's it. And I hope to make this pretty quick. All right, so to get into the list, I wrote it out here, of the bonus books that Dr. Peter Kreeft, listed as books you should read before dying. Under the category of autobiography, he listed The Seven-Storey Mountain by Thomas Merton and Surprised by Joy by C.S. Lewis. So basically, Kreeft wants you to read most of C.S. Lewis's works. The Seven-Storey Mountain by Thomas Merton is really, I love that book. I recently reread it. And oh my gosh, I was just glowing after I finished reading it. It's an amazing conversion story, really profound. And it was instrumental in my reversion to Catholicism way back when. So I definitely agree with that one. Surprised by Joy, I've also read and really enjoyed that one too. So, and like I said, C.S. Lewis is hit or miss with me sometimes. You can see all the mess. I have just stuff piled on. I don't pay attention to my backgrounds. Anyway, I'll try to cover up the pile of clutter. Anyway, Surprised by Joy, I did enjoy that one by him. I really am intrigued by his relationship with his wife, Joy Davidman. I like the little pun in the title. Then under novels, he lists A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Now, I love that book. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I love that book, and I have read it several times and love it. Under plays, he lists Hamlet, which is good. He should have listed at least one play by Shakespeare, so this is a good choice. I do think it's probably considered his best play. Very complex, and I have read that. And then under epics, he lists the Silmarillion, by Tolkien. So basically he wants you to read most of Tolkien's opuses or whatever. I'm just working my way through the Lord of the Rings now, so I haven't gotten there yet. And then under supernatural fantasy, he says, this is the bonus one, Descent into Hell by Charles Williams. Now that was on C.S. Lewis's 10 most influential books. And that's a book that I really do want to read. And then under science fiction, he lists the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And I have to thank Sean Stanfast because we read that in his Faded Pages book club. And at first I did not like it and I had to really persevere. But by the end of it, I did think it was pretty great. So I don't know if I would list it as a science fiction you should read before dying, but it was good. I'm really glad that I read it. Under spirituality, he has Abandonment by Divine Providence by Jean-Pierre de Caussade. I don't know anything about this. I've heard the title, but I don't really know anything about it. So I don't know about that one at all. Under classic philosophy, he lists The Republic by Plato. I'm sure I read big chunks of that. If not, I don't think I read the whole thing, but I read a lot in college because I was a political science major. And that's a major, that's the first book you start with. So that's what he lists there. And then for popular philosophy, which I think is funny that he calls it popular philosophy, it's Ethics by Aristotle. I would, out of all the Greek philosophy that he lists here, ethics is the one that I would most like to read. I know I've read some of it, like bits and pieces, but a comprehensive study of ethics by Aristotle, I think would be a good thing to do. And then under history, he kind of cheats here. I think he puts in City of God by St. Augustine. That's not really a history. I mean, in a way, because he's talking about Roman culture. The first half of the book is he's defending Christianity against the charge that it's the reasons why the Rome got sacked by the Vandals or somebody is because the Christians weren't worshiping the civic gods. And so that's the first half. And then the second half is when he takes like themes from that first half and he talks about the city of man versus the city of God. And so it does include history, but it's not really history. So I think he's cheating a little bit there. And then he also lists two other books both by Christopher Dawson. And I've heard of him before, I've not read him. His books seem to be out of print. They all seem to be very expensive. Like you go to look it up and it's $70 or something. But anyway, the two that he lists here are The Formation of Christendom and The Dividing of Christendom, which I'm listening to a book right now, I'll talk about it later, that is all about that. And then under theology, he lists Theology of the Body for Beginners by Christopher West. I have read that. It's excellent. I think that people who don't understand, or they think that like the Catholic Church, they're just bigots and intolerant, and they should read that book because they'll understand we just operate under a different anthropology of sex. We just have a different framework for how we view sex, and it's not compatible with the modern or postmodern view of it. And it's not personal, or it shouldn't be. There are plenty of sinners who use it as an excuse to hate, but we just have a different framework. And to me, it makes a lot more sense because it's based in biology and in divine revelation. And I think those are pretty solid foundations for how to view sexuality. But anyway, and it's not hard to read. Theology of the Body for Beginners by Christopher West. I highly recommend that for everybody. Everybody in society should read that book. And then the last one really pleased me. Under poetry, he lists The Death of Gerontius by St. John Henry Cardinal Newman. And right at the beginning, 5 years ago, when I started this BookTube channel, like right after the first Victober I participated in November, I started reading this poem out loud. So if you go way back, I'm not going to link. I don't have time to do fancy things like that. But if you go way back to the beginning of my channel, I read this entire poem out in like 8 different videos or something like that. I'm not sure. Can't remember how many parts are in the play, so it could be more than that. It's not less than that, I'm sure. Anyway, yeah, so The Death of Gerontius is wonderful. It's about a man on his deathbed thinking over his life and, religion and everything. So, it was put to music by Elgar, I think. So I think there's he cut out some of it. But it was turned into a musical piece. So anyway, so that is the last thing listed in Peter Kreeft's list of the 41 books to read before dying. Now, there's several of them though some overlap with the C.S. Lewis 10 most influential books. So I really do want to read a lot more C.S. Lewis. And I'm trying to read Tolkien, and I do want to read The Consolation of Philosophy. And there's a lot of good books listed in there that are worth reading. I was having a conversation with my son, though, and he was saying that he found it pretty narrow. And you can sort of see it as just reading stuff that reaffirms your own worldview if you are a, European Christian, or Western world Christian. And it does, I think you can put a positive spin on that and say that it's good to really think deeply about what you believe. so that you really know what it is. And I think that's a good exercise to do. But I do agree with him that it's kind of narrow. It's kind of narrow. And, you know, life is more than just reconfirming to yourself, you know, your own beliefs as a Christian. I think it's, I don't know, I think a broader reading might be beneficial to being Christian too. And like out of those 41 books, only one is by a woman, The Story of a Soul by Saint Therese of Lisieux. And, you know, and she's a saint. And a lot of the other ones, you know, they're men who aren't saints. There's some, you know, Saint Augustine, I think Saint Thomas Aquinas or whatever. But yeah, so I feel like he could have done better there. For instance, I thought it was curious that he picked The Tale of Two Cities as his bonus must read, because as much as I love A Tale of Two Cities, and I really do, there's so much great about it, I really think, like, say, Middlemarch is just technically a better novel, and it's also more subtle and profound. So why not pick that one instead? Or, you know, he did so much C.S. Lewis, and I'm sure the Screw Tape Letters is, I've only read part of it, but it's great. But I was thinking, you know, what if under plays he had picked, or maybe I would pick instead, A Raisin in the Sun. Because there, it's written by a woman, it's an excellent play, and it's about the corroding effects of racism on humanity. I mean, it's talking about sin. It's wrestling with big questions. So I don't know. I do think it's a little bit of a narrow list, but I think, you know, I still want to read a lot of the books that he recommends. I just like to read more than that. And my son asked me a really interesting question. He said, what are your 10 most influential books? And so I'm going to do a video on that probably in June. So thinking about June, was there something else I was going to say? Wait, I feel like there was something else. I can't remember it now. Anyway, in June, I don't have big plans for June because, I'm having eye surgery. And then hopefully I'll be able to read better. And I'm just going to keep going through the big, long, honking long books that I'm reading right now. So I'm still reading an essay on the development of Christian doctrine by St. John Henry Cardinal Newman. I'm about 30% through that, so I have to get moving if I want to finish it by June. By the end of June, I think I'm probably going to go over into July. I'm reading The Life of Samuel Johnson, and I'm about 25% through that. So I got to work on that. And then right now I'm in the middle. Oh, this is what I was going to talk about. The Dividing of Christendom by Christopher Dawson reminded me that I am currently listening to a book called The Protestants by Alec Ryrie, R-Y-R-I-E. And he is Oxford-trained historian. He's a specialist in Reformation history. He's written several books. And this is a history of Protestantism from the Reformation to the modern era. And it's not very theological, except that, of course, theological issues come up because that's just part of the subject. But he's not like analyzing the theology. He's just stating what the different issues were. And it's fascinating. I didn't know that much. And it's putting pieces together for me, and I'm learning whole new things that I never knew. So I'm finding it very interesting. I find the person reading it annoying because he has a very sarcastic lilt in his voice, and I don't like it when the narrators do too much interpreting for me. I just want to read it. I don't want, so I feel like they're putting a layer between me and the author because they're interpreting it a certain way. I do think the author writes a bit provocatively, but I don't want that overemphasized, you know. So anyways, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the narrator, even though he has I find British accents do that to me, where I just sort of react to, they just seem a little bit snarky, and I just read the book, okay? Just read the book. You don't have to interpret for me. Anyway, So, but I am enjoying it, and I'm learning so much. And I must say, it's not making me want to become a Protestant, but I can go into that later when I review the book. And I think I have like 14 hours left or something. It's a long book. I looked it up. I think it's like 500 pages or something. And so that's what I'm reading right now, and that's going to go into June. So I don't really have any plans for June except to continue reading these big books that I'm already started reading. But I do want to participate a little bit in June on the Range. So I am also going to try to read the Oxbow Incident. I forget who that's by, but it's like a classic of Western literature. So I do want to read that in June as well. And I think that's all I can get done in June. All right, so I think that I've said everything I needed to say. So I'm going to sign off now, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Happy reading.